Hello friends, Tanya here with some more Spellbinders releases. Just in time, not really. Some of these are a mix of different collections. We've got a bunch of poinsettia things here. We've got the Make It Merry poinsettia set. This is one of the new Better Press Christmas releases. This is last year's Scenic Poinsettias. And then we have the Full Bloom Poinsettia with the coordinating layered full bloom poinsettia 5-piece stencil set. We're going to start out using this glimmer plate. I've got it with some Aura foil on some white hammer mill cardstock. I let that heat up, and I did let it heat up 2 full cycles before I ran it. This plate needs a little extra time, at least for my system. And then I also did it on some Portobello Spellbinders cardstock with some of the satin gold foil. We'll let that heat up. I think I did it twice again for this one because the Portobello does need some extra heat. And there we go. It is absolutely gorgeous. There they are next to each other. And I'm going to stencil just the white one on camera. I did the Portobello or the craft paper off screen. I started out with some festive berries for the poinsettia. And I did use, I'm also using some lumberjack plaid to add some highlights on this. The berries I'm doing in ripe persimmon, and this is not distress inks. These are these are not oxides. These are the dye inks. And I'm using the cubes and a variety of different ink blending brushes. The wonderful part of these stencils is if you wanted to color your petals different colors to add extra depth to your poinsettia, you certainly could. Now you saw me put the lighter brown, I think I used the darker brown on the parts that should have been lighter brown and vice versa on the pine cone, but it still looks nice. But if you're going to do this layering, I would start with the darker brown for the pine cone on these layers with layer 1 or 2, whichever layer it's on. And then save the lighter ones for later. Now for the leaves, I chose 2 different colors here. I think it's, what is it? Evergreen bough, pine needles, and yeah, I think that's the 2 colors I used. And then I also have some rustic wilderness here. I don't know that I actually used the rustic wilderness. But there is our completed stenciled poinsettia. Next, I took some deep green ink, the fresh juniper, I think that's what it's called, and the mowed lawn, and I spritzed that on the back on this cardstock. Now I'm just doing the distress mica stain, and you can see a little bit of a difference between the two. The mowed lawn added an extra piece of brightness. I took that piece of cardstock and I cut it down. This is a panel that is 4 3/4. I believe it's 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And then I cut out the inside of this because I want to use that colored cardstock on some other elements in this video. I did add some extra layers of cardstock to make everything just a little extra. And the inner portion was die cut to, I think, 4 by 6. Here we've got the Comfort and Joy Sentiments. This is another of those glimmer and die sets. And they also have Stampin' Dies. Well, actually, I don't know if they have Stampin' Dies that do it this way. But there's Better Press and Glimmer sets where it does a whole bunch of sentiments, and then it has a die, and the sentiments are all on one plate, and then there's one die on one die plate that die cuts all of your sentiments. I love that. I did die a couple extra of these banners to layer behind our central sentiment here to add a little bit of highlighting around it. I like to layer up my sentiments because I like to add a little extra oomph so that they stand out on your background. I could have glimmered this on some colored cardstock, but I like this two colored version. It would have been really pretty on the green in gold too. I'm trying to figure out where I want to place it. I don't want to cover too much of this beautiful glimmered and stenciled image. It doesn't take much for this card to just finish it off. Now I did want some extra gems. So we've got the extravagant emerald rhinestones from Trinity Stamps. They're a deep iridescent green. I'm adding a scattering of these across the front of the card, 3 in each opposite corner, and then 2 around the central poinsettia. Next, I wanted something in the center of our poinsettia, so I've got the golden glass embellishments. These are 2 sizes, where the extravagant emerald were 4 different sizes of rhinestones. The golden glass has 2 sizes. I'm using just the smallest. Just going to add, I think it's, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 gems in the center there. And they fit in there perfectly, and they add just the right amount of pizzazz, I think. So I could have skipped doing the ink blending there, but I didn't know I was going to do that till after the fact. But it also makes sure that that center, where the gems don't cover, still is a yellow gold color. Next, we're going to take the poinsettia corner. This is from the September Christmas Better Press release. I'm going to use this Hero Arts ink. This is most likely like their core line. I've had this cube for years. It came in one of my monthly hero kits, but it's just the right color of green. This is going on the inside of our large 5x7 poinsettia card. I've taken a piece of cardstock that is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 and done my Better Press image on that. And now I'm going to carefully place that sentiment from Christmas Icons that came out in July. And I thought about using tawny brown, but I already know from experience that it is not quite as dark as I would like. So I'm going to use Pinecone VersaFine Clara Nocturne ink. I've been using that a lot lately, especially with all of my fall projects. And look at that. That lined up so nicely. The grid line on the platform makes a big difference in being able to line everything up. And it has a good strong magnet, so it holds things in place. Now we'll take this piece and adhere it to the inside of our card, and that's going to complete card number 1. I have 2 cards and a tag for this video. Moving on to card number 2, we're going to use the Precision Layering Mini Slimline A set to die cut a piece from this gorgeous. I really like how this stenciling worked out on the craft colored cardstock. I die cut that with the biggest die that would fit for that. Now we're going to take this In the Pines embossing folder, which you can still get in the Make It Merry collection if you get the Make It Merry embossing folder die, and I think there's 2 die sets and the embossing folder you can get as a bundle. Otherwise, it's sold out on the Spellbinders website. The 3D embossing Evergreen folder that just came out this month is very similar, but not quite as rustic as the In the Pines. So there are lots of options. You could also use that Scenic Poinsettia 3D embossing folder from last year. If you have that in your stash, it's also available in several of the crafting stores. Now I've got several of the Comfort and Joy sentiments here. Now remember, when you glimmer and die cut, you get a whole pile of sentiments to choose from. So this will save you time. You're going to have Christmas sentiments that you can use in a flash. There's also a few in here that are generic enough that you could use them for winter cards. I did add a little extra cardstock behind this, and I did not feel the need to add a contrasting color behind this banner because it's already a big contrast from the layer it's on top of. Now, of course, I have to bring the design to the inside of the card. So I have a piece of cardstock left from that panel that I glimmer foiled and stenciled. We'll add that to the inside. And now onto our tag. We're going to use the Create a Decorative Tag die. Die cut that last little piece of the craft cardstock from the previous project, and then die cut the another piece of the embossed and mica spritzed mica distress mica stain sprayed green cardstock. I also cut a piece of white, heavyweight white cardstock with the full tag die. So I have a good clean back for this tag, so there's some place to write to and from. We'll adhere both of these sections to our tag. Now the embossed piece was die cut first and then embossed with the embossing folder, and that does tend to change the dimensions just slightly. So I do end up having to trim a little bit off of that tag to make the green line up with the white layer. Next, I'm going to take this, I think it's called Firestone Red. It's a tonic mirror cardstock. It's something I've had in my stash for a while. I'll try to link to it. It's been sold out most of the time. Hopefully they've restocked it in time for Christmas stuff this year. You might have it in your stash already, or some other mirror red cardstock. This works perfectly to add some definition between, or some transition between, the embossed cardstock and the craft foiled and stenciled. We're going to use that Make It Merry Florals to create some accents for this tag. I've die cut these from cardstocks that have been sprayed with the distress mica stains in a variety of colors. I don't even know which. They are pulled from my Rainbow of Paper Scraps file, which, if you want to take advantage of all of your little scraps, having a file that is just sorted by basic colors is very helpful, especially if you don't have to keep track of who manufactured what. Once I started using that file system, all bets were off when it came to the scraps. There's no way I was going to be able to tell you which company was which for what colors I've got that I'm using for my scraps anyway. There are two branches here. One is for that. One has berries and the other has these pretty little flowers. We're going to add the coordinating pieces using the pickup stick here. Any kind of little embellishment wand is going to be your best friend here. With the holly die, holly or mistletoe, I'm not sure what you would call that, probably holly. There is also a die that is the base for 3 berries, and the berries for the branch cut out enough for the mistletoe also. I don't ultimately use that little grouping of 3 berries. And I am just carefully trying to figure out where I want all of these pieces to land on our tag. Once I've settled on their placement, I am going to adhere them using some Bearly Art Precision Glue. This is my favorite glue. I use it almost all the time. Just little dots of glue will hold all of these items securely. I did also use sentiments from the Comfort and Joy Glimmer and Die set. Again, love this. It's going to be a staple in my crafting area. If you haven't gotten it yet, if you don't have a lot of Christmas sentiments, this one is going to fit a lot of your needs. Again, a little bit of extra cardstock behind this. We're going to add it at an angle, and that's going to complete the tag. That is all 3 of the projects I have today. We went poinsettia crazy. I hope you enjoyed it. If you love poinsettias as much as I do, I hope this gave you some ideas on how to use poinsettias in your stash, or about some products you might like to purchase. If you are interested in any of the products that I used today, check that description box below. They'll be listed in a link there. There's also a link to the visual list if that is more helpful. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, now would be a great time. Give this video a like, comment. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, here are a couple more videos. Bye-bye.